Okay, might as well start off with a shocker. This is an artery, and this is a vein. Now, veins have valves in them so that the blood cannot go backwards. It only can go towards the heart to be recycled. Arteries don't have valves. They can go any way they want. What I want you to look at is this pattern right here. You see that pattern? See what those cells look like? Well, let me show you another one. All right, remember what I just showed you is this was a vein, an artery, or possibly a vein, but I don't see any restrictions here, so I'm going to go with an artery. And some of this inside layer has dropped down. And I would say these lines here are due to water flow or something like that, more than likely. But these are certainly, in my opinion, the pattern of artery or vein, and I believe it's artery because I don't see any obstructions for the valves. And they claim this is inside of a, hold on, it's supposedly inside of a lava tube. That's what the government claims. This is a lava tube. Well, I say no. That's an artery from a gigantic creature. Absolutely stunningly large. And that's what it looks like inside. I showed you that before. Now I have large arteries here too, this big around, big. This is an artery that's still blowing out red blood. It's dried up now. But these guys are looking at it and say, wow, how did that happen? Well, here's where it came out of. Right out of the artery. Red blood just flows. And this is, it looks to me like some kind of flesh. I mean, it is some kind of flesh, whether it's muscle, I don't know. Could be a tendon area. But you see all the little lines? That's how many layers of tissue there is. It's just stunning. Because, you know, you bring this up to our size and have all those layers, I don't think it's well understood. Now, this is a vein and an artery. There's the vein. There's the artery. And these are people looking up and saying, wow, what is all this about? Well, that's out of a creature's body. Now, I look for these kind of things here. Like that could be some kind of a strap, I don't know. I have no idea, but this is quite obviously, in my opinion, the vein, and this is quite obviously the artery. And the creatures were just big enough to have these things, this size. All right, this is a shocker. Now, I believe this is salt. And they're mining this. I don't have enough information. I could be totally wrong, but I can tell you one thing right now. That is some kind of a blood vessel, I would say. And it does. They don't just dead end like that. Somebody's digging in here. This is not a natural cave by any means, I'm sure. And you see how they're scooping it. It must have something there. And just runs down and does one right after the other. These are layers of tissue. Those are layers of tissue. And there was a blood vessel coming through that layer of tissue. I believe. Could be some tiny little bone. I don't know. But whatever it is, it wouldn't just dead end like that. So, I think that's salt. And salt is one of those crazy things. I can't really put my finger on how these certain areas turned into like basically salt. You know, they have a lot of other minerals in them, but primarily it's salt. NaCl, and then inclusions. All right, everything leads to everything else. I've been studying salt now, and in body tissue there is a substantial amount of salt. So, like they say, the nomads, they ate their flocks and their milk and all that stuff for their food, so they didn't need salt. But the ones that were eating vegetable matter, they needed to have salt. So salt became high value, world's main trading commodities. All right, and they would carry slabs of salt here and there and sell them. And they needed the salt to exist. And this is a lot of very interesting stuff about salt and the different types of salt. But primarily, it's sodium chloride, NaCl. You got Na is way over here, and Cl is way over here. 7 plus 1 makes 8. 8 is the number that works strongly. Now, there is inclusions in here. There's all kinds of inclusions in these different types of salts, like Himalayan, but these were body parts that converted into salt. Now that to me is kind of interesting. All right, in and amongst all this red stuff and so, this is salt, but there's minerals and other things in that salt. That's why it's the pink Himalayan salt. I have some right over here. All right, that's pink Himalayan. But it's salt. Now, why did it turn to salt? This is kind of interesting for me. I really have a little bit of a hard time with that. Look at this. Obviously, they're mining this. Here's some more salt right here. You know, you can do some exotic stuff with this. This is a salt cave. And they said when the people went into these caves and were hiding during World War II, they came out healthier than when they went in. As a matter of fact, I have a salt inhaler. It's a Himalayan salt inhaler. And you just take a couple of hits on this, you know, pretty regular, and your lungs stay in fairly good shape, you know. These are all the different types of salts. Himalayan pink, Cyprus sea salts. These are black Hawaiian volcanic salts. I mean, they're everywhere. Hawaiian green, Indian black. I mean, why? I know. I don't. I can't tell you. Look, these are different layers of tissue. They have attached to different types of salts, it looks like to me. Or the salt invaded them and this is obviously the red blood still. What's going on here? I don't know. Some kind of a membrane in between. It looks still like rocky. It doesn't look like it's turned to salt. But just about everything else here has. Now that looks like it's the surface layer on top, which would be the flesh, but below the skin, you know, the first layer. And then you get down below and you get into these different colors, which indicate to me different types of tissues. Just like this. If this was in a condition where there was a ton of red blood, because that's the colors come from blood, and primarily from red blood. And every one of these basically would have a little bit of a different chemistry to it, mostly. And as you can see, there's all kinds of this color, that color. These are different chemistry. Anytime you see a different color, it's a different chemistry. Here was in a condition that it was just what it was here, and there wasn't very much of blood. Blood has the colors. They have the transition metals. So that's one of those things. Why did they turn into salts? Why did that turn into salt? And I can see the same thing here. This looks like veins. The black, I would say, has something to do with vein. And it certainly doesn't look salty. The other parts look, you know, like dissolving salt. All right, the next video is going to be another return to this Sondong cave. I'm going to try to explain the whole digestive system, because that's what it is a digestive system. And these things here are like this. Look, there's a guy standing on there with a flashlight. This thing's just absolutely enormous. And it is a digestive system of some creature. This is in Vietnam. Sondong cave. So, and they mapped it out and they showed how it works. And the first thing that we went into was the cave pearls, which is the digestive system stomach. So now we're going to go past the cave pearls. Okay, as I have shown you, these underground deposits they're digging through, extracting salt, are not from what they're talking about. Salt beds, they say, can be up to 350 meters thick and cover broad areas underground. The deposits are formed from the evaporation of ancient bodies of water. I don't agree with that. We can see they're biological. You can see the tissue that was there. The same thing with Himalayan salt. Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. They were biology at one time. Now, how they changed, I don't know, but it's not from being in an ancient body of water. You know, it could be from being in an ancient body of water, but I don't see how. Himalayas are not like deep down where you would expect it to settle. They're way up high. The Himalaya mountains, they're gigantic, way up there, and this is where this pink salt formation is. It's nothing more than some form of biology turned into salt. All right, so once again, I guess that's going to be and next one's going to be about Sondong, and we're going to go deeper inside this cave, which is a digestive system.